All right, so this is what is today, July 20, 2023. This is our community mentorship, and I am Eric, and this is my wife Katrina from Texas. And so we're going to share a little bit in our journey, some things that we've learned, foundational things for life across many different things. And we are going to do a Ask Us Anything. I always enjoy doing those because it brings a lot of variety. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chats. I think we figured a chat out this time. Put it in there and we will respond to them towards the end. Did you want to say anything on that? Yeah. So what we were going to talk about a little bit is took us a little bit to figure out. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it. And that is the 3C methodology. If you've been here and if you've been using the content, you may have heard that term, 3C methodology. And let me just pull this up. So I wrote a thing on the, oh, you have it there. I wrote a thing up that I shared on Facebook and on the school group about it. But then some people still had questions about it. So that's what I wanted to kind of discuss. And then if you have questions about that specifically, feel free. And then, yeah, let's see here. So 3C methodology: confidence, communication, and commitment. And I think the reason it's found so foundational is it really covers all areas of life, whether that's relational or work life or being a balanced person. You know, one of the things that I'm passionate about is having a balanced, fulfilled life, and I think this is major key to that. You have anything to say on that?
I don't think so.
So I think I'll just go through each one a little bit and share some of the things that I've learned about each one. And then if there might be some other rabbit trails we'll go down, but today in our mentorship, in our part of the mentorship that we're in with Carlos, we heard he talks some about balance. And again, I think this is a big key to being balanced, is to utilize 3C methodology. The first one, confidence. Confidence it ties so much into who we are as a person, our MVP. I said, dropping this insecurities, I wrote, drop the insecurities and a whole bunch of problems will disappear along with it. And that has been our experience very much. The more confident I was able to be in, who I am, the more I'm able to, in business, it affects how much money I make. If I'm talking to somebody about services we provide, being confident, you bring that energy to the sales call, and it directly affects how much money you make. In our marriage, confidence in communication, it also ties into the other ones. Confidence in talking, going through the storms, like talking with my wife, working through agreements and disagreements. Conflict, confidence in conflict. If we don't know our MVP, if we don't know who we are, it just crops up a whole bunch of stuff. Thinking of,
It allows for like the victim mindset to come in your insecurities and
yeah,
triggers, and yeah, and then you have a bunch of stuff come up between you and your marriage, and you don't have that connection, and you can't work through things because there's a block, because we think that, yeah.
it again comes back to the agreements process, where, and I do apologize if you've not been part of the content, some of this stuff might not make complete sense to you. But agreements are basically the triggers that you have. The beliefs, and triggers are what are the things that you believe about a certain situation. I think we can all identify with triggers. If my wife does something that triggers me, it means that I get irritated, or I get this feeling of not being in peace anymore. I have negative feelings, and it creates a barrier between us. So that's what we mean by when we say, agreements. Those emotions are tied to our beliefs. So if I have a belief that, for example, one belief that I had recently that I've worked through some, and I'm still working through, is that I can't trust women. So if she does something that offends me, then all of a sudden I have these same emotions that are triggered up because I believe that I can't trust women, and then it breaks that trust between us. I saw somebody had commented on my Facebook post too. He said something about unoffendable. And that is so true. Like, I think it ties directly to the confidence thing. If we're confident, we don't get offended.
I was going to comment on that too, where something I had to learn a lot is, even like, we all work through things. We all have stuff come up in our personal journey, and we have to work through it. And sometimes you need the space, especially like as a married couple, you need a little bit of space to work through something. And sometimes that often would trigger me when Eric would have that come up. He was working through something, and he wasn't maybe quite as connected for a bit, and that would trigger me. Instead, I've learned that it's okay. It doesn't bring any reflection on who I am as a person. I'm still, and I'm strong. If I'm strong in my identity, and then it will not affect our relationship. Instead, I will stay in peace myself, and that will allow him to work through his things faster and come around. And yeah. So that's something that I thought about with commitment and being unoffendable in a relationship.
You mean confidence?
I mean confidence, yeah.
Yeah,
confidence, and then being unoffendable. Maybe that's what.
Yeah, and the thing that you were working through, your agreement or your belief about, what was your belief about that? Like, what was the belief that if I was, in other words, if I'm not okay, then you're not okay? Like, why was that, or what was the belief, or do you know?
I guess that I'm not good enough, or I don't know, I'm not good enough, or I'm not,
like something must be wrong with you.
Something's wrong with me, that
that I
didn't want to withdraw. Yeah.
I would say that would be a big thing for me in a different way, but like, when you're out of sync, it's like, my trigger is, she doesn't want me. She's withdrawn. She doesn't want me. That's been my big trigger, to be okay for her not to be okay. or even like, not,
Not true.
not be able to be as connected and stuff like that. And it works both ways. So
Yeah.
that's been our journey of being
So many
confident.
times it wants to like trigger upon a trigger, and you get in this cycle of, he triggers me and then I trigger him, and then we just keep on triggering each other. And that, I think that confidence, once we can work through our own personal confidence in that, and then it's like what they do to me is not going to trigger me. So, yeah.
And that reminds me that there's a quote that Carlos said, or no, sorry, Chantel said this, and I wrote it down. It's triggers are an opportunity to move through something so it no longer controls us.
Mhm.
And that's like super good, because if you don't get this right, if you don't get this down, you just continue the same cycle over and over again. And so,
Yeah.
and that,
And it gets worse and worse until
until you get through it. And that really, that's all just in confidence. And so that's what I'm saying is confidence is one of the foundational things that we can have and develop, because it builds of who it makes us. Not because we're arrogant, not because we're better than other people. That's not confidence, in my opinion. That's just covering for other insecurity. Communication. Hey, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Proceed accordingly. That is, do you have any comments to make on that?
Well, it's a big thing. I mean, like, it's a very valuable thing to have in a relationship. Communication.
And so many people just don't know how, or we didn't know how. We're learning, obviously. And, even before I was married, I studied a lot in different communication and how to do that. But when you're married, once you get married, it's a completely different level yet.
I think I found for myself the times in a marriage relationship, in this communication thing, is I just expect him to know. Like, I just expect him to think what I'm thinking, or know what I know. And I'm learning how I need to tell him what I desire and what I and what I'm wishing for, what I want, and that often is like, it takes away a lot of the stress. Like, otherwise, if I just expect him, then it's putting expectations on him that he doesn't know, and it makes him frustrated and me frustrated. Yeah.
And probably in our marriage, I think the key for me is to use my ears more. And maybe the key for her is to
use my voice.
Use her voice more. I think in our background, it was drilled so much into our belief system that the woman is seen and not heard. The woman's voice really doesn't matter.
Or you just submit.
Yeah, you just submit and you're just passive, and that's just, that's how a good Christian does. That's how God wants us to do, right? But coming into a better understanding and a more of a balance where woman has a voice and we're yoked together and not a man and then a woman under. It's a yoking together. I think is a much better understanding of that. And commitment, I think commitment is a huge way in how communication is a huge way in how that is expressed. Where you do have a voice.
And also today in our Zoom with Carlos and stuff, I was really he mentioned how, as a married couple, working through our disagreements or things of conflict in front of our children is actually is a tool. Like, you're teaching your children
Conflict resolution.
how to work through conflict. And that's something that bothered me, actually, because through our, personal development and growing and, learning, and we've come up against, a lot of conflict and had to work through it. And our children are there, and sometimes we have to like say all the things, and our children are there, and it's bothered me. Like, here they are hearing all our stuff come out, but then it was a good reminder that, well, they're also seeing the tools. Like, they're seeing how we resolve it, and they see us love each other afterwards, and so it's actually a tool. That was really powerful.
Yeah, I think that even released me feeling guilty, because I know that sometimes we work through things in front of our children. But I think, it's like light bulb moment of we can have healthy conflict resolution, and a quiet peace is not better than healthy conflict resolution. I don't know if that's quite the right way to say it, but if you get what I'm saying, a quietness without peace is maybe a better way to say that, where we're just quiet, but underneath you have all the tensions and feelings and things of stuffing it, versus just expressing yourself, being honest, completely honest with each other. That's another huge key in communication, is just being honest. What are you feeling? And what are you thinking? If you don't express it, if you don't communicate it, sometimes you don't even know yourself until you start communicating it. And sometimes you need to communicate it on paper and then throw it away, right? Yeah, what Jesse said, peace that avoids conflict is likely a weak peace at best. It's not, in my mind, it's not even peace. It's a brooding before the storm. There's something wrong, but you can't say anything about it. And I think it's much more healthy for our children to learn that conflict is not a bad thing. And healthy conflict is a skill that we can learn.
Right.
That's what I want to pass on to my children.
Yeah, because I was not. I was scared of conflict. I didn't like it.
And yeah, same. And I think we can change the narrative on that, where we're not afraid of conflict. In our culture, especially, I think. In our culture, especially, I think that conflict. That's why so many of our cultures, churches are split. Communities go their separate ways, and people go their separate ways, because we don't know how to properly deal with conflict.
And that's why the divorce too. I mean,
yeah.
Like, it's conflict is like the triggers. It's an opportunity to move through it and level up, and
yeah, like Jesse said, there's an agreement, and then we can build on our confidence, and then we can have better communication. All right. Wow, time's going. Commitment. I actually heard a different people say this, but most recently I heard a Mennonite preacher actually say this. And it caught my attention because it's so true. He said, this was at the wedding we were recently. In my own words, he said, contrary to popular opinion, love is not the foundation of a strong marriage union. Commitment is truly the foundation, and it's so true. Like, love comes and goes, and I even when we first got married, I was so disappointed, because we were so in love, but then the emotions came and went. and I had these expectations that if I didn't feel the love, you know, the flowing and the you know, the deep, yeah, the deep connections and all that. If I didn't feel that all the time, 100% of the time, there must be something wrong. I'm not even talking about connections. I'm more talking about, like, you know, the fuzzy feelings, the romance. If the romance isn't there, then, you know, we're going off the rails. Something is seriously wrong. Well, that makes for a very up and down marriage experience. Whereas sometimes we have to, and like, again, we were talking about today on our call today, mentorship call. What was that? What was he saying again? About, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Did you write it down?
I think I did.
Sure, you're getting that.
Anyhow, it makes for a very up and down experience. And so if we have that commitment, oh, it was about flying to the storm.
Oh, yeah.
So when we do what we, you know, don't want to do and go against what we naturally want to do, that's commitment. That's working through conflict. That's working through triggers and issues that we have in our marriage. You know, it doesn't feel like love. Yeah, you still love. The truth is, I still love her. The truth is, I still am deeply connected to her, but it doesn't always feel that way. And so that's where the commitment comes in, is we are going to do this. You know, we're together, we're yoked together.
It's a choice that.
And the more we do that, the more connected we feel, and the more the romance does stay.
Right.
And is, you know,
it's
is at a high level. So anyhow, well, we have a, let me see here, put my phone right here. We have a couple of minutes left, about 5 minutes. Do you have any questions? Let me see here. Didn't see any questions here. Is there anything specific that about this or about something else that you want?
Message us privately or on the group.
You can message us
You have our
directly.
number.
Yeah, you can, either way. A couple, if not a couple other things that we learned. And go ahead, if you question something, have a question, just go ahead. But a couple of other things we touched on right now is on our legacy mastermind is attitude of gratitude. And when you're going through the stuff, when you're when there is conflict and when their money is tight and there is stress, and you know, those are things that are real for us. We certainly don't have it all together. And attitude of gratitude, that really hit me. It's like it truly is a key. It turns your focus from yourself to now giving, and it makes that flow where you're now you're giving to others, you're blessing others, and that's really what creates that flow. When you, that's what I figured out for myself. A key for myself is, if I'm stuck financially, if I'm stuck emotionally or in our marriage or whatever, the key is to start it, just go against what you feel naturally, fly into the storm and give. Give your time, give your money, bless others. And you know, you can do that with gratitudes and worthies, speaking gratitudes and worthies over each other. If you've been following along and doing the you know, the sanctuary, the power of 30 practices, sanctuary practices, as some of you might know it, you know, speaking that over each other, speaking that over other people, and just having that mental reset of gratitude, just does something spiritual. It does something, it sets us up for to be able to receive that also. So that was a powerful key for
Changes
me
our
today.
mindset from the victim to
Yeah,
the great.
I wrote it down actually in my notes. Gratitudes and worthies resets is a reset. It changes the atmosphere is a good way to put it. All right. Couple other things here. Let me see. We're almost done. Another thing that was so good for me and talking about this foundational stuff. Part of the reason we're going over this again is again the repetition. So we were talking about that. Repetition creates skill and it creates excellence. And develops that muscle memory. It's what makes that foundational change to where you were to now who you are now. I think the example was the movie The Karate Kid, you know, where I don't know, I didn't watch the movie, but where he's learning karate, right? And the foundational work that he was doing was washing cars and waxing cars, and it was developing a muscle memory. And that's in the same way with, like, I play guitar, the same way it's developing a muscle memory to where you don't even have to think about, you know, when you're positioning your fingers to make the chords on a guitar, you're not even thinking about it anymore. Your hand is just knows exactly where to go based on muscle memory. And the same way in life, you have to get the foundational things right. You have to get it to where it's absolute muscle memory, because when that's the saying, when there's stress, when you're in a tough situation, you don't automatically go to your highest and best self. You go to your lowest level of preparation. Lowest level of preparation being the foundation. So if you're in stress, even if you're, you know, if you're in here and you're hoping to get married, if you have a heart for connection, this is the foundational stuff you got to learn. This is the because this is right here is where you're going to be using it. Like it's not, marriage is awesome and fulfilling and, you know, building something together. But you still have to prepare for it. So I would say that would be the foundational things. The more we repeat them, the better we get at the foundational things. And that's what I have to remind myself. Like, I hate repeating things. I'm like, do something new, you know. But yeah, the foundational things is truly what changes you as a person, and sets you up to go where you want to go. So Jabel says Karate Kid is a very good movie. The same thing that helped you before you're married is also what will keep you married. That is really good. What will help you now before you're married, building those connections is what's going to keep you married. Because believe it or not, you might, when you first get married, it's hard to imagine how people can come to a place of, you know, separation and divorce. It's like, hey, that ain't never happening. But you know what? If there's unresolved stuff, yes, you get married, wait for, you know, however long, you'll come to a better understanding of how people do that. If you don't have those skill sets, if you're not actively being proactive about it, you will definitely come to the place where marriage is either getting better, it's either getting better or it's getting worse, in my opinion. So, okay, well, that's our 30 minutes. Thank you all for joining us. do y'all have any questions? If you want to jump on and ask a question in person, just let me know. I will pull you up.
Otherwise, we'll save it for another day.
All right. Thanks a lot for being here. We appreciate y'all. And we will see you in the school groups. Thank you. We'll see you.